Bill, talk to me a little bit about Black Lives Matter. Seattle, where you live, has been one of the hot spots where that conversation has been kind of joined in earnest. Lots of young people, like your three children, have been thinking about it a lot, talking about it a lot. What have you learned? What are you thinking about when it comes to not only what's happened, but where we can go from here on questions of race and racial justice?
Yeah, my daughter took me down to the CHOP, which was the protest area, and showed me, what was going on down there. So definitely, a lot of anger about, the historical mistreatment and, not doing enough to look at the justice system, the educational system, to get rid of these disparities. And sadly, even in COVID itself, we saw this huge disparity in the infection and even the death rates, where both Blacks and Hispanics had significantly more risk.
Well, the coronavirus doesn't discriminate, yet the ACLU is out with startling numbers that show Black people are dying at a higher rate from the virus.
You can see African Americans represent 41% of COVID-19 deaths.
Our foundation has is a great group that thinks a lot about these issues, both because our health work is mostly in Africa, our education work is mostly in inner city schools, with a real emphasis on closing the gap of the Black students in the inner city with the high standards that they need to be able to go to college and complete college. So it caused us to step back, double down a lot of these inequity investments that we make. We strengthen our partnership with the historically Black colleges with some specific supports to them, studied all the textbook work we do to see, does that work for low-income minority students or not? But, it was an awakening to see that something that brutal could still happen in our country.
Is there something bold here, Bill, that you think we should consider as a country, or maybe even as a global society, to deal with something as brutal, as you said, as the systemic racism that is sadly, been part of the fabric of the country and to some extent most of the world's societies?
Well, certainly the idea that, if somebody has a record of not doing the key part of their job, which is, treating people well, we've got to reform how that's looked at and understand why that relationship between the police and these communities is often not very functional. Honestly, I'm not an expert enough to know, does that mean we need more resources or shift resources over to other things? I'm going to listen very carefully to the best thinkers on that. The area that our foundation is strongest in is the education piece. The kids who are at such incredible risk of ending up in the jail system, which things like the new Jim Crow is compared to that system of discrimination from the late 1800s. If they drop out of school, their chance of eventually ending up in prison, if you're a Black male from the inner city, it's over 60%. And that's just unacceptable. That society-wide is meaning that, as fathers, as members of those communities, that creates a cycle there. And so how do you interrupt it? We've already made a lot of grants along this theme, but we have more to learn.
Hey, tune into the Carlos Watson Show. It's like no other. You're going to enjoy it every weekday on YouTube.